Hello and welcome to Fatima Today. This show is produced by the World Apostolate of Fatima USA, Our Lady's Blue Army, and brings topics to you, our viewers, related to the events in the world today. We live in tumultuous times when logic seems to have disappeared and uncertainty hangs over us. Our hope on these programs is to address the issues of the day and find solutions through adherence to the laws of God, especially through the message of Fatima. We ask that you subscribe to this podcast.
The month of November is dedicated to those who have preceded us in death. On November 1st, we honor all saints, those who have been raised to the altar. On November 2nd, we remember all souls who've died, many remembered and many not. It is on this day and throughout the month that we pray especially for those in purgatory who need our assistance. It is a proper practice to remember and pray for the holy souls every day. My guest today is someone who knows much about the holy souls who have passed from this life in God's grace, but are experiencing a period of cleansing before entering the presence of God. Susan Tassone is the author of 9 books on purgatory and is rightly referred to as the Purgatory Lady. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you, David. Happy Month of the Souls. Glad to be with you.
Great to be with you. Yeah. Thanks for coming on. And it is a special time. It's a holy and wholesome thing to pray for the dead, right? And I think we, in our world today, which lacks, I think, charity, generally speaking, we don't think about that. There are too many. I had a priest, a bishop, actually a cardinal, say to me, he said, well, he goes, I just went to another canonization the other day. Point is, and we should be happy for people, should pray for people, and you want an upbeat thing at a funeral. But he says, we don't talk about purgatory anymore. And I thought that was pretty telling.
It's very telling because, I get squeamish because that's all you hear at funerals is that they're with God, they're enjoying heaven. And, practically speaking, you have to be totally pure to stand before God. You have to be, no stain of sin, remains on your soul. It has to be completely, pure. And that what wipes that away? The stain is our indulgences. And we don't know if that their will was perfectly lined up with God's will. We don't know that. So as you said, we canonize everyone, and then we leave off too soon our prayers, especially for priests, consecrated religious, our relatives. And look at our Protestant brothers and sisters, David. They don't pray for their dead at all. So we have to keep that in mind. And let's say this, David. I talk about this a lot. What if they're already in heaven? What if we prayed for that mother or father for 40 years? Where do the prayers go? Well, a lot of people, you hear the comments saying, well, God applies those prayers to someone else. But it's much bigger, David, than that. St. Thomas Aquinas calls it accidental glory. If a soul is already in heaven and you've been praying for them for years, that soul gets 2 things. It gets an increase in its intimacy with God, and it gets an increase in its intercessory power, which is in the Catechism 958. So the lesson is never stop praying for your dead, because their intercessory power can help you throughout life. And they're the ones that are going to try to inspire you and nudge you, not because they don't want you to go to this workshop of purgatory. So you're going to get inspirations from those that you prayed for.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. In our intentions, we always say we invite all angels and saints in heaven, all guardian angels, all patron saints, and all the poor souls in purgatory to join us in our prayers. I learned that years ago, and I think because the poor souls have intercessory power, I believe, right?
It's in the Catechism. The more you pray for them, the more you increase that intercessory power for you.
Sure.
What a deal.
Yeah. You're praying to someone who's saved, that or not knowing who they are necessarily, but they have. And, I was also taught that if you have a particular fault that you have trouble overcoming, okay, whatever it might be, that, you pray to that soul, or who it is, who may have overcome that in life. Okay, help me to do what you did to overcome your weakness that I share, and help me to, to make my way into heaven.
Well said, David. Exactly. You want to target your market, if you will, for these souls. And here, this is something I I discovered, David, out of the 22 years I've been doing research, I saw a pattern here, with Faustina, with Padre Pio, with family members, with priests, that when the souls that are given permission to appear, who do they appear to? Well, if you look at in the diary of Faustina, the nuns that she lived with, that's who appeared to her. Padre Pio, the monks who were in his monastery, that's who they appeared to. And you hear stories of, I do all the time, of family members appearing to their loved ones, asking for prayers or letting them know they're okay or they're in heaven. So
Sure.
that bond is never broken. It's always somebody that they have bonded with or are related to or lived with. And in a very special way, David, our family members, our loved ones that are in purgatory, they take your salvation very seriously. They admonish you. You know, sometimes my sister had a dream of our brother who had died, admonishing her, look at me. He was in purgatory. You know, he needed her specific help. Why he didn't appear to the purgatory lady, I don't know, but for some reason he went to her. Maybe she needed to do that. So they admonish us, they inspire us, they take a very serious interest in their loved ones to make sure that you don't go to this workshop of purgatory. So we need to we need to adopt their humility. We need to adopt their, what did they did God's will. I mean, they want us to do God's will because that's how we avoid purgatory. And they want us to, have perfect resignation. So we need to submit ourselves to our loved ones to help us avoid purgatory.
Yeah. I think that's in the whole idea of purgatory is just seems to have been just flushed out of not the church necessarily, but yes, I would say the church and society in general. This whole idea and again, that everybody goes to heaven. Well, unfortunately, not everybody goes to heaven. Not everybody's saved, and those that are saved do have a period of purgation. I mean, that's just who we are. I think I always like to think of like the Transfiguration. Okay, and they saw the glorified Christ, and of course Moses, Elijah, and they just what they witnessed there was just a touch and an amazing idea of what true sanctification was and what heaven is all about. And I think we should focus on that a little bit because what we see, that's brighter than anything that our human eyes on earth can really appreciate and understand. Our darkened eyes, darkened by sin, from original sin and then sin throughout the ages, how it is just, like put in that shade, between us and heaven. And we don't really understand it. I mean, and that's why I think it's hard for people to even understand the concept of purgatory.
Yeah, and I have a book out, Day by Day, The Holy Souls. It's one of the most popular books of all the greatest writings on purgatory, and from saints, from popes, from encyclicals, from poets. And one of the quotes was from Saint Teresa of Avila, and she was on her deathbed. In fact, I may, if I don't have it, you have to let me see if I can get to it quickly. Yeah, and here's what she said. Here's what was said. During her agony, God allowed Saint Teresa of Avila to see his holiness as the angels and the saints see him in heaven, which caused her so much dread that her sisters, seeing her trembling and extraordinarily agitated, spoke to her, weeping, "Ah, mother, what has happened to you? Surely you do not fear death after so many penances and such abundant and bitter tears." Saint Teresa replied that she did not fear death. Then the sisters continued, "Well, do you fear your sins or hell?" Teresa continued to say no. Then Teresa said, "Oh, my sisters, it's the holiness of God. My God, have pity on me."
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so again, these are people who are so holy by our standards.
Yeah.
Look at what their fear and their trembling to understand. I mean, I think that's what it's all. I think we fail to understand how complete and holy God is. It's just beyond our imagination, and it's not. And certainly, we live in a world with so much distraction that our focus, our frame of reference, is this world and its trappings.
Mhm.
I mean, I can understand. I mean, you can't even go on. Can't even go on a computer and then my screen pops up and a bunch of different things pop up to take my attention, right? I forget what I'm going on for half the time, you know. But think about
Exactly.
it,
And
it's so
I
distracting.
call it,
Yeah.
there's even, I consider some of these ads soft pornography, David, that
Well, in a way it is, because,
yeah,
it does.
some of these ads and some of these the celebrities and what they wear.
Yeah. Right. And those are things just flash into your mind and they stay there. Let's be realistic,
Yeah.
And I think that is, that's a diabolical tool to
Yes.
certainly to make you sin, but also just to distract you from good. Okay,
Right.
there's a road towards sin, and it's not you go from here and you automatically commit a sin, but you get distracted away from other good things.
And wasn't the children of Fatima that said that, the sins against purity was what sent most souls to hell, David?
Yeah, Jacinta,
You,
Saint Jacinta said that most souls go to hell for sins of the flesh.
mhm.
Most that are there, and it would make sense. I mean, we're such a concupiscent people. We're beyond. We don't have, even the purest of us is fighting. That thing every day. I mean, because we live in the flesh and it's big and it's around us, and it is difficult.
It,
Difficult.
in fact, David, our dear friend Father Apostoli, may he rest in peace. He wrote a fabulous book called Fatima Today, and he was the one that explained to us in his book what happened to this young person, Amelia, that Lucia asked where her soul was. Their friend Amelia had died, and so they asked Our Lady where she was, and Our Lady said that she would be in purgatory until the end of the world. And Father Apostoli did research and said that what could she have done? Well, Amelia was 18 years old at the time, according to what he said, and that she it was a sin against purity, and he said that she didn't have time to do penance, and so that's a big message to us, that you have to do penance, and after you go to confession, there's still the stain that's removed, and she didn't have time. So they said that the church at that time offered a lot of masses for her, and a lot of prayers and sacrifices. So again, that just points to what that sin against purity is really serious. Is she still in purgatory? There's different levels of purgatory. We don't know, but it depends on the prayers of the church too to help her. So, sure. But that's something to think about, because that's where she was.
Yeah, well, I mean, one priest said, does it mean that she will be in purgatory at the end of time, or that she's merited that and we could help her get out of there?
Okay, very well said. I like that answer.
It's hard to say, because sometimes interpretations aren't 100%.
Yeah. Well, I hope that we do help her. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for her and for everybody, because if an 18-year-old girl, think about the rest of us who've lived many more years.
Yeah, yeah.
And true. I mean, there, of course, one plenary indulgence can remove all of it, and that's true. Although, you got to have perfect, real purpose of amendment, and that's not as easy as people think. Are you willing to separate yourself from all the things in life that brought you to that sin? And so there's a lot more to it than just saying, well, I'm clean now. And I'm not diminishing it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, whenever there's a holy door, the holy years, and that, I go in and out that door as much as I can every day.
We had a holy door here in Chicago from Mother Cabrini. I was in and out as much as I can, to get that special indulgence. Yeah, and there'll be another holy year in 2025, I believe. I forget what it's called, but I just read about that there's another holy year coming in 2025.
Yeah, I think we had them here at the Blue Army Shrine. We had one for very, very fortunate. The bishop granted us a holy door in 2016, which was for the year of mercy, if you recall.
Oh, yeah.
And then the next year, they granted it for this shrine again because of the anniversary of Fatima, 2017. So we had 2 years in a row. We had a holy door. And I kept telling just close the rest of the doors and everybody go through that.
Yes, I wish they would do that, because a lot of people don't even know what it is. It's all decorated, and they tend to go to the center door. I like that idea. They should make all people go through that and come out that door.
Yeah. Well, that was at Holy Name Cathedral in Chicago where they had.
Yes.
I think they had it on the left side.
Yes.
I don't know so many people just didn't even realize.
They didn't even realize it was. I would see it. In fact, I would go up there and I would tell people, walk through this door. They should have kept it in a bulletin all year long. But We're not, we're in sales. We're not in management.
There you go. There you go. Right, right. We're supposed to do the dirty work,
Yes,
not the
yes.
brain work, you know. But it is true, and I think that's really the kind of the essence of it. I mean, and your books. I mean, and of course, I've interviewed you. I think with most every book you've written, and it's been great. We're a long
It's
time.
been wonderful. Yeah.
So happy, you know, and we have your books really bring it down to a level. I mean, you know, in particular, you talk about this the series on Saint Faustina, okay, and
Oh,
divine
yes.
mercy, and of course, divine mercy, the apparitions and the divine mercy has been the continuation of Fatima, as I see it. I mean, because look, the last apparition of Fatima happened when in 1929, when Our Lady came to Sister Lucia and called for the consecration of Russia. Okay, that was 1929. It was 2 years later that now we start getting these messages from Saint Faustina, correct?
Mhm.
You know, so I think they're very much tied in with the Fatima message and a continuation of God's call for mercy for us. That's what Fatima was, you know.
She had a great devotion to the souls in purgatory. She saw them. They said, were they happy? And they responded that their greatest happiness was doing the will of God. So there's no rebellion in purgatory. They choose to be there. They don't want to leave 1 second before if there's any stain that's on their soul.
Right.
And there was one other thing she asked them. I don't remember, but that was the main point, was that they're happy and that they, even though they suffer, and they want us to also, that's the way you avoid purgatory, is doing the will of God in all things.
Yeah.
Her the guardian angel took her to purgatory, and that's where she had this conversation with them.
Yeah, yeah, it's so amazing. I mean, when you think about it, how removed we are from that reality, you know. I mean, why is now? Now, of course, this time of year, here we are. We're on November now. We're coming into Advent in what, another 2 weeks, or week and a half, whatever, and then of course Christmas. You know, Christmas is very special for the Holy Souls too. And
Yes.
what is? Can you explain a little bit more about why it's so
Yes, indeed. You know what? You just reminded me back with Faustina. I remembered what the second thing was. That they commented that Our Lady comes down to visit them and refreshes them, and that they call her the Star of the Sea. And again, thanks to Father Apostoli, what did that mean? Well, you would know this, David, being a pilot, you know, and a navigator, that there's a North Star called Polaris, and that's the star that sailors navigate, you know, their direction. And so it's a steering star, and so this Star of the Sea is referred to Our Lady as the steering star toward her son. Yeah. Always directing us toward her son. So that's where, you know, that's where she gets her title, the Star of the Sea. So keep that in mind, because she's safely guiding us to her son. So that's just another beautiful title. Now, Christmas, why is Christmas so important? Because a lot of people think that All Souls Day is when most souls are released on purgatory. There's a tremendous infinite number of souls that are released, but the majority of souls, the big exodus, is at Christmas, and that's from Saint Teresa of Avila and Alphonsus Liguori through their revelations. And there's another private revelation where Our Lady appeared and said, you know, agreed, yes, not agreed, but also commented that Christmas is the day. So really, November 2nd, is the whole month is dedicated to them, and it's just a kickoff to get them home for Christmas. You know, we want their desire to be our desire. And what's their desire? To the beatific vision, to be with God. What's our desire during Christmas? To be with our loved ones, to be bonded with them, to be together with them. And you know, this is I don't have the brochure, but one of the rectors, you would know him. We went together. We went to Borromeo Seminary, where Father Mark Lakovich invited both of us to speak to the whole faculty and all the seminarians. Yes, he told me that there's a brochure that that Cardinal Ratzinger wrote before he was Pope at the time on heaven. And he said that Cardinal Ratzinger referred to heaven as a reunion. It's a big reunion. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's exactly my vision of, you know, of what I think too. And so this is what this is. It's a reunion. You know, they want to be home. We want to be home. They rely on us to get them there because, David, their merit is over. They can't help themselves. They're totally helpless in purgatory because of once the soul leaves the body, they're no longer able to merit. They pay off a debt. For whatever reason, God has given us the power and the privilege to release them. He basically says, I put it in your hands. So we have this great honor and duty to release them. And Christmas is the greatest time too, where most souls are released. And that's where the revelations come from. It's the birth of Jesus. So we want to take them home for Christmas. We want to go through Advent and include them in our sacrifices, because Advent is like a mini Lent, right, David? It's really, there's purple, we wear the purple, and we wear the rose. I believe we do, is that Lent? We wear the rose color in Advent. Maybe, I don't know, I'm getting it confused, but you know what I'm saying. So Christmas is a very critical thing. In fact, I want to add this, that Christmas Day is it's a vigil. Is that no? What do you call that? Every day is oh, David, why is my mind going blank? Every day is Christmas Day.
Right.
So,
of course. Well, Christmas begins then, and it's Christmas for the day.
Oh, it's an octave. It's an octave.
An octave,
okay,
exactly.
So it's 8 days of octave. What does that mean? That means we celebrate Christmas every day. So it's Christmas Day, Christmas Day, Christmas Day for 8 days. Right. So I realized, oh my gosh, you can continue to gain your indulgence, go to the cemetery, receive communion, offer that up to the souls for 8 days, because it's Christmas every day. So we could empty purgatory out, David.
Well, and that's part of the secularization of our society, which really, to be honest with you, drives me so nuts. Why I don't really enjoy the holidays anymore, because they're so secularized. I know people who rip down their Christmas tree on the day after Christmas.
Okay? Yes, you see them in the alleys, David. Yeah,
that's when it starts. Yeah. And I guess maybe in this country particularly, and I don't even think it's not even promoted properly, even in our churches, about how Christmas goes on. In some cases, not all. And
they subtly mention it, that they don't really drive it home. That you realize that this is for 8 days.
Yeah.
Well, there's really 12. It goes to January 1st.
Well, being married to someone who's European born, and that kind of reminded me a little more about it, because in their family, this is when it starts, and I agree with that. I mean, you don't. We always did. My parents always, they never ended Christmas on the 26th. I mean, as a matter of fact, I mean, I always found that period after Christmas to be more enjoyable.
Yes. Okay. Family were coming over.
Well, yeah, that week between Christmas and New Year's. I mean, even from a social standpoint,
yes,
it has a lot to it. A lot of people, especially you, arrange your vacations typically if you can, and so you have some time off and you do a lot of things, and it's nice. I mean, but the real meaning is that you remain in the Christmas spirit, and by spirit I mean the spirit, in God, and you're there. I mean, I can see why Christmas would be so efficacious for the holy souls. Also, I understand birthdays, correct? The birthday of a soul is supposed to be a time of many release. I've always been told that.
Yes,
or
yes.
The day of death, the day that you're born into eternal life.
Yes, right.
Yeah,
very well. In fact, David, if you don't mind me mentioning this, it's so important. Jeanette Bankovic had you on her show, Women of Grace. You always do a wonderful job on EWTN and great programming from the Shrine in Portugal. She had you on the air. We're doing an evening, ushering the souls home for Christmas.
I want to ask you about that. Yeah, that's great.
This Friday at 7 o'clock. I believe Eastern. No, I'm sorry. It would be
8:30. I think is what I had.
There you go. Yeah, Eastern.
November 18th, 8:30 Eastern time. Correct.
Eastern time. Yeah, and we're doing. We're ushering the souls into purgatory, and I'm giving 2 real extensive talks about Christmas, about angels, about the Our Lady, the souls, the saints. It's going to be really good. So I hope go to womenofgrace.com and join us if you like. But you're going to get everything you want to know about helping those souls home for Christmas. And these are your loved ones. When we think of the souls, David, it's not this third party. It's our mothers, our fathers, our brothers, our aunts, our uncles, our doctors, our lawyers that were in the fabric of our lives. Yeah. That's who they are.
If you want to give somebody a gift for Christmas, I don't need anything. I don't need another thing that I already have. Okay. Only spiritually, that's what I would want. If I were to die, pray for me, you know.
Yes.
I have a cousin who's a priest, and we laugh all the time. And I tell him, and he does a lot of Gregorian masses, which I want to talk about a little bit. And I just said, look, just do me a favor. You've got to live 30 days more than I do, because you're going
I
to
love it. I love it. I
30
love it.
days. You know? He says, well, I'll do it. He said, you know.
Yes, you nailed it. What do they need? What is the most important thing they need? They need the body and blood of Jesus. So Christmas Day offer a lot of people. I wonder how many people go to mass and don't think of offering their communion and indulgence for a soul or for the souls or one of your deceased loved ones. You can offer it for yourself, not for anyone else, but for your deceased loved ones. You know, do that for Christmas for 8 days. Give them. And what do you get? You know this corporate word, with them. What's in it for me? You know, I've learned that when we're in the corporate world. What's the value? You know, what do we get out of this product? Well, I'll tell you what you get. You give them paradise. You give them the beatific vision, and their joy, their gratitude is in proportion to their joy, which is immense. And they can pray for you while you're in purgatory. And they also, at the throne of God, the first thing they do is they intercede for you all the days of your life until you're safely home in heaven. They become your dearest friends forever. The guardian angel also is involved. They do more than take you home. They do more than provide transportation to heaven, David.
Yeah.
They're the ones that inform the souls in purgatory who's praying for them, so they know who you are, and they start interceding, and they inspire us, the names that pop into your head, to pray for the souls, and they console the souls in purgatory. And then when their time of release is ended, they escort them to heaven, and there's like a reception line of all these angels cheering you on, so that your entry into heaven is a triumphant one.
Yeah. Yes. No, very, very true. And I think that's what we have to understand. You know, the whole concept of purgatory also, I think, helps us to understand the gravity of imperfection and sin. Okay.
Yes.
See, we don't have that in our psyche anymore. You know, we don't have the hellfire and brimstone. You get there's a little bit of it out there, but there's not. You know, I mean, it's not. I know even a lot of priests say, well, I don't want to scare people up. No, you should scare them crazy, okay? Because not scare them off, but have them understand that, look, it is not, the road to heaven is a rocky one, okay? It's not a paved boulevard. And you have to understand that we have to offer ourselves and live according to God is not an easy thing to do, especially in a world like this. It's just not. Fatima message. I mean, what is the message of Fatima? To work for the salvation of soul. Okay. And I remember one person said, well, we have to concentrate more on the living because we got to get them to be saved, not worry as much about the Holy Soul. So I think you got to go the whole thing, because conversion is something that goes through life and obviously continues in purgatory. Doesn't
exactly.
Have. You're not perfected. And I don't think many of us will enter directly into heaven. There are martyrs and there are extremely, holy souls, I'm sure. But I think virtually all of us are going to take a little.
You're right. All the great saints, everything I've read, we're probably going to do some purgatory time. That's exactly right. And we don't understand the malice of sin. And that's why the souls are there to help intercede, especially the loved ones, to understand the malice of sin. What is sin? It's the opposite of the 10 commandments. And you got, well, I don't sin. Well, how do you respond when you come out of church and you're blocked by cars? How do you handle, how do you make a person feel? Do they want to get closer to you or further apart? What kind of comments do you make throughout the day? What kind of slights?
Exactly.
All these little things are sinful. These venial sins, your attitude, your sarcasm, those people don't think about their behavior. It's your behavior. How do you handle the bus driver or somebody, the cashier in the store? Are you in a cranky mood? Do you take it out on someone? Those are the kinds of venial sins that we're talking about. And sacrifices, I always think about the Fatima kids. So what, they offered sacrifice, heroic sacrifice. Well, you think, well, what do 7-year-olds and 10 years olds, how do they offer heroic sacrifices? Well, I did the research, David, and it's not what you think, this thing that's out of our reach. They gave their grapes to the people, the children along the road. They gave up their lunches. Right. They didn't drink water on a hot day. Those were the sacrifices. It's nothing that's outside of our reach that a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old can't do, which they did. And they became saints because of these were the heroic sacrifices that any 6-year-old or 7-year-old can do.
Yeah. Well, how many times, you don't realize how you influence people. Okay, I mean, obviously
Absolutely.
you're a known author. Okay, and the work I do, and I do writings, and I can't tell you a number of times people said, what you wrote about this made me
Yes.
think, or how it,
Yes.
and I don't want to take credit for it. I mean, that comes from God. Okay, if there's an
You're
inspiration,
the instrument, David. You are the instrument.
but it shows you how the littlest thing you do you don't know how it's going to influence somebody.
Oh,
And also, the evil that we do, how does it influence somebody? How does it influence a young person, perhaps? Oh my God, think about that. Those are
one
serious.
discouraging word to like
Yeah,
a teenager that
right.
could just, or a child. Oh Lord, I get upset when, you have to be kind and merciful and graceful because that's what you want. But you're affecting the world because that they can turn around and become agitated and pass that on. Those are
Absolutely.
sins. Those are the things you have to be careful of.
Yeah, yeah.
David, you talked about Gregorian masses. I don't want to skip that. So do we have time to cover what they are?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Explain a little
these
bit
are
about the
something.
Gregorian Mass.
Yeah, Gregorian masses, put them in your will.
Yeah.
You may have a place to send Gregorian masses. I always talk about the Pious Union of St. Joseph in Grass Lake, Michigan. There might be something that you arrange at the shrine, but there are 30 masses in a row for one deceased soul that was popularized by Pope St. Gregory. He
Yes.
had 30 masses offered for a monk named Justus in his monastery. And after
Right.
the 30th mass, Justus appeared to Pope St. Gregory and to his brother. He had a brother named Copiosus who was taking care of him during his final illness because he was a doctor. He appeared to both of them and said that he was released from purgatory. Now, two things: why 30 masses, and was he does that mean that after 30 masses we can be released? Well, first of all, the church doesn't go that far to say at the 30th mass you're released from purgatory. It points to the efficacy and the power of the masses. So put them in your will. Why 30 days? Why not 31? Why not 42? Well, it goes back to the Old Testament that Pope St. Gregory wanted to bring back the tradition that Moses and Aaron and Jacob mourned for their dead for 30 days. And he was bringing that tradition back from the Old Testament. That's how they mourn their dead. Bringing that forward again and reintroducing that. And what I also learned, David, is that what these 30 days, how did Moses and Aaron and Jacob and the Israelites mourn? They did works of charity. I read that was their definition of mourning.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, acts of charity. That's what it's about. What is prayer? Prayer is charity. I mean,
yes.
I always say that you have the theological virtues of faith, hope, and charity, right? Faith will not exist in the next life. Okay, hope will not exist. In faith, you'll see everything in front of you. Hope, you'll either have gained or lost everything you ever hoped for at that point. But charity will go on through eternity. And I
You
think
nailed it.
that's what it's about. It's charity. The Fatima message is about charity towards souls, to bring them obviously to salvation, and then carry them on, because those are your advocates are going to help you in your mission and what we do, for example, here. And I just think that's so very, very important. And the Gregorian masses, yeah, they're very special. They really are
very
special.
powerful.
Yeah.
Those faith, hope, and charity, I call them the soul virtues, because that's what Jesus is looking for to come to heaven. Those people that practice those virtues, those are the people that he wants in heaven with us. Sure. And if we become, if we don't take this seriously, because we're all given a mission, David, every single person has a mission from God. He created us for a specific mission. And if we don't, pay attention, or we dismiss it, or go to plan B, or divert, then you're in a real precarious position at the end of your life. And whose fault is that? That's not God's fault. That's your fault. So you really need to pay attention. We're lucky we have purgatory, because it's his mercy. It's a healing. It's not, he's not lowering the boom on us. He's not trying to get even with us. He's trying to fix what was broken, what you didn't, the graces that he gave you that you didn't follow through. He's trying to put the pieces back together so you're able to stand before him, before his all holiness, his all justice, his all purity. He's just trying to help you put the pieces back together. Yeah. That's a God of mercy. And that's what purgatory is. It's a healing purgatory. It's a loving purgatory. It's not a purgatory of punishment.
Right. Well, Susan, that really is. I mean, obviously, our time goes fast when we get together on something like this, but it's a fact. I mean, and I think I'm so happy you're able to come today and talk about this beautiful month of November, about this purgatory, and about what it means, and our devotion to the souls. Because again, if the Fatima message to work for the salvation of souls, we have to work to get souls all the way to heaven. Okay, because these are our advocates. These are the ones who give us the grace and the help we need to fulfill these missions here. So anyway. So
We
thank you.
need those intercessors.
You bet. You really do. Yeah. So thanks for being here today, Susan.
Oh, it was a pleasure, David. Have a wonderful trip to Portugal. You've got 38 pilgrims going to Portugal. Get some souls out of there while you.
There we go. We got to keep working at it. So hey, I thank everybody for listening to this podcast, and we ask that you subscribe to it. Thank you. God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you, David.